Thank you, Leanne. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you're watching. We have an enormous turnout today, so thank you very much for joining us. This webcast marks the start of our second series, Capitalizing on Organizational Change. And we are very happy that you're with us despite the holiday season. So in this webcast, we'd like to talk about how to transform at scale by aligning local and central, which I guess is a key topic, especially for larger organizations. And I'm actually very happy that my colleague Sebastian is with me. He's an expert, and he has managed a couple of transformation projects already. So a warm welcome to Sebastian. I'm glad that you're here.
Yes, also a warm welcome to our participants listening and showing us today. I'm looking forward for the session today. So we prepared some information how we solve problems and also the solution at companies scaling up their transformation. But I would also ask you as the participants writing us questions, describing your situation or asking for further detailed questions that we can start an interactive session together with you.
Thank you. I think this is very important, so let's please keep it interactive as possible, ask questions in the tool. And we are live on LinkedIn for the second time, so when you're watching us from LinkedIn, please feel free to use the chat tool there as well, and we'll collect all these questions at Leanne, and we will have access to them later in the webcast. So now let's come to the content and let's get started. So Industry 4.0, digitalization, artificial intelligence, I guess these are the key topics for everybody in the manufacturing industry. Big words for a number of years. And Industry 4.0 digitalization are used to optimize processes, create new business opportunities, build digital services, and so on and so forth. And in the course of these webcast series, and you know that from the last webcast, we are always raising the question of where is the industry today? And what we see is that a lot of companies are at least starting pilots and prototypes in these domains. So this is what we see, but this is also what we find in studies provided by other consultancies. Namely, this is a study provided by McKinsey in 2018. And McKinsey tried to find out on how many companies already started the implementation or rollout phase of digitalization Industry 4.0. What they did here is they made three groups: the connectivity group, the intelligence group, and the flexible automation group. Connectivity group collects those technologies that help you to optimize processes, improve operational performance. The intelligence group is about analytics, predictive maintenance, predictive in other areas as well. And last but not least, flexible automation, which is about new equipment, a new form of equipment that helps you to reflect very agile developments even in your manufacturing processes. And when you have a look at this study, and you see this with the blue bars, then close to between 60 and 70% of the companies have started to actually do something about it. They started with pilots. And then secondly, when you ask the questions, okay, how many of those pilots have been put into action on a larger scale? So how many of these pilots made it to the rollout? Then you see that the numbers are going down dramatically. So only between 20 and 30% of the companies have actually started to roll out digital manufacturing solutions. Yeah. The question is, of course, why? And at this point, Sebastian, I'm very interested to hear your opinion. Why is that manufacturers are still struggling to have a look at digital transformation on a global level?
Yes, I think the numbers you just showed, I really see this day by day also at our customers. 2 points are there. If you want to take a look on those pilot phase, where already first technologies are used within a production environment. Yes, this is done due to, on the one side, high motivation, because you want to see glancy technologies within your production areas. On the other side, even for one pilot, you can prepare it very much on the environmenting you're having there on place. On the other side, if you want to roll out some technologies, also what you showed, there's another problem. And we saw this problem already in one of our former webcasts when we talked about how far are producing companies already. And many are struggling at the moment with connectivity. So making an IT-OT integration, for example. And therefore, if you think about the rollout, some baseline technology are missing, and this hinders a lot of companies to roll out their glancy technologies. And therefore, they need a very structured approach to move forward, that they can do their transformation very structured, and in the end, to the lowest cost which are possible.
Mm-hmm. So when I understand you correctly, it's about having a plan, having the right people in place, and making use of the right technologies to get your transformation going.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's quite interesting. And of course, McKinsey was also looking into the question, why are we not further down on the digital transformation journey? And maybe let's just add a couple of quotes here, which from my point of view fit very well to the topics you discussed. So what we see here, or what McKinsey found out, is that 61% of the manufacturers see an insufficient return on investment for digital solutions. Yeah, and I think this is, so we are still in the phase of trying out new technologies. Of course, not all of them make it in the end to the market or make it to the global level in a company. But I think this is quite interesting that we should still have to crush this border. And this is something we know by heart. Yeah? So a lot of our customers are experiencing the same things. So if you're interested in that topic, then please check out our last webcast. My colleague Tobias Haaland had a very close look into that, and he gave an explanation on how you can come to the right figures and how you can estimate what the return on investment of a solution might be or might not be. Okay, another topic, also very interesting, is a lack of vision, which I think is very interesting. Yeah? And it basically shows me that you can start at one point, somewhere in your organization, but then it really needs a vision, or it takes a vision so that you can roll it out. And this is really a barrier for manufacturing companies, and it fits very well to another observation, that the C-level is not responsible in all cases for the digital manufacturing journey. In fact, only 1/3 of the companies have the leadership team onboarded to the digital team. One more quote. That of course leads to the fact on how you deal with a strategy. So basically having a strategy means having the leadership team on board, and that's what we see, what companies are missing here. Yeah, without the leadership team on board, there's no digital manufacturing strategy. Two more aspects I'd like to highlight is that talent is of course an issue. Yeah? So getting digital transformation going is something that needs to come from the inside. There's of course help that you can get from the outside, but basically it's a shift in your organization. Yeah? So you need to make a step change here, and that's something you do with the people you have on board already. And last but not least, having an ecosystem, a partner ecosystem, is important for that. Because you need some new core competencies that need to come from the outside. However, still manufacturers are struggling with that, and they try to build everything internally. So what we call the not invented here syndrome, what they are missing. So they do not really want to accept solutions or approaches that are available on the market. Yeah? So these are, so to say, the top reasons why not to jump into digital transformation right now. Back to you, Sebastian. What is your view on how a possible solution could look like? What are the fields I have to look into?
Yeah, I think those challenges which are mentioned in the study you just saw, they are quite typical, and I see it quite often in the practice itself. If we're now talking about a solution or a structure, how to move this forward, we build up a structure on these 4 fields. On the one, you already mentioned the ROI calculation. For sure, if you're now talking about Industry 4.0, many years ago, this was more seen as a strategic topic. So nobody was caring about what do I have to invest, what does it bring in the end, because they want to do the first step and also doing first experience. And we saw it quite in the beginning that first pilots are already done, and it's now a question how to scale it up. And for sure, then it's the question of what does it bring to my company, also what does it cost coming back. And you just mentioned the webcast, so I do not want to go here in this topic any further. But there are still three other blocks where we want to go into at our today's webcast. The first thing company have to be aware of is empowering the organization and also the associates. And the second is, as soon as you have a plan, know how to move forward, then also you have to deal with your technical environment. So how to build up your IT structure, your ecosystem in the end. And last but not least, and as bigger as your company is in the end, as much effort you have to do is with doing a project management behind this, implementing a governance, that everything is structured and aligned in the end.
Okay, great. Very interesting. So, yeah, my wish for the course of the webcast would be that we directly jump into these topics. So I would say, yeah, let's get started with the first blocks, empowering the organization and associates. Sebastian, what are the findings you've made and you have there?
Yes, the finding we have made, I think those participants already listened to one further webcast. They know that we are using the ACATEC Industrie 4.0 Maturity Index as a standardized tool to measure how companies are doing their digital transformation. And I do not want to go here to all details, but just do a very short flashback and explaining how the tool is used, and also how this can then be used afterwards for large scaling up companies. So if we are talking about a digital transformation, the ACATEC Industrie 4.0 Maturity Index is supporting us very much because it has a very much holistic view on this. On the one side, it shows the typical development path of a company, starting from bringing first IT system to the shop floor until some of your decision can directly done in a closed control loop by the system itself. And on the other side, and you see it here on the picture, that we have also a holistic view what is part of your transformation. For sure, there are technology aspects like connecting machines, dealing with your resources, also dealing with your IT systems. But on the other side, and Christine, you mentioned it already when you showed the study, that you also have to deal with your organizational structure. So how to align different initiatives on a plant level, how to bring this on the corporate, how to have there a concrete strategy vision, which can then be brought to all plants itself. And on the other side, also, how is your culture? So how do you do your change management? And what's also part of the culture, how to develop your employees regarding the skill level. And if we are using the maturity index, it has in the end a very huge questionnaire in behind, so it can measure how evaluated are the processes. You can aggregate it on a company level, and you can see their strengths, weaknesses, also open gaps. And by having there a very detailed view, you are able to derive for one project scope, for example, one production plant, a roadmap that shows step by step what to do and how to move forward.
Thank you very much, Sebastian. So the ACATEC Maturity Index is a tool or framework we've developed together with the National Academy of Science and Engineering in 2017. By now we've built a company around it. We are offering tools to actually apply the Maturity Index, but in the end it's a framework or it's a tool. So as a manufacturing company, how do I apply it? So what does it take for me to make use of the Industrie 4.0 Maturity Index?
Yes, normally you have two ways how to use the ACATEC Industrie 4.0 Maturity Index. On the one side, for sure, you can call us that we do this within a consultancy service. But if I take a look on typical customer we have, and also typical manufacturers we have here in Germany or even in Europe, they do not only have one plant or two plants, they have a local, global presence, they have probably hundreds of plants worldwide, and for sure they also want this tool internally to move forward, to structure their transformation and to know how far their plants are already. Therefore, we developed over the last 3 years an online platform. This online platform guides the user to the transformation, so step by step. It provides the questionnaire I just mentioned, and it can then be used for manufacturing companies. So they're getting a training here. They know how to use the maturity index. Probably we do the first projects together within a mixed team, and then they are able to run alone, going through the different plants and applying the maturity index. Why is this important? To have there some kind of a platform behind this and also some kind of a standardized tool, because they have to compare the different plants between each other. They have to find out where are measures within my roadmap that I do not only have at one or two plants, but probably on a complete division, probably worldwide within all my plants. And therefore is it very important to use their standardized tool that is independent from personal evaluation, but do the evaluation on an objective way.
Okay, so that's very interesting, and I guess it's a great help to have this tool, especially when you want to assess or analyze remote plants and aligning them on their journey. Now, the title of the webcast is Transform at Scale by Aligning Local and Central. And for me, there's one key aspect, and that is leveraging the organization and the people behind it. So from your perspective, what does it take to get this going in the organization as well, beside the tools and the framework and those kind of things?
Yes, let's probably first have a look on a typical organizational structure manufacturing company have. So on the one side we have the corporate, so the complete C-level who is following hopefully a strategy or a vision, what does Industry 4.0 bring to them. And then they have different divisions, different business units, which also have some kind of different targets, working in a different ecosystem. So it can be changed from business unit to business unit, what exactly their targets within their transformation are. And then on the lowest level, you have different plants, being in different countries and producing different products itself. And then it's very important that the full structure of the transformation fit to each other. So if we starting here with the corporate level, you need somebody who is at this level responsible for the transformation. Many years we discussed about the role of a CDO, so Chief Digitalization Officer. I know not all companies really using this position within the board, but they have some kind of an Industry 4.0 manager who then playing this role and update the board in a regular way. And it's also the task of somebody at the corporate to align also with other areas like the IT, that they are following in the same direction. And then if you're going to the corporate, to the division or business unit level, you need there somebody who is doing the transformation, who is measuring, okay, where are open gaps? I just mentioned the platform of our Industry 4.0 maturity index. So using this, knowing how the whole method works, assessing the plans, preparing roadmaps, and take a look which activities do we have to deal on a business unit or a division level. And then at the plant itself, you also need somebody who is responsible for local activities, who can work as some kind of ambassador at this level, and also showing the person, the employees on a local level, what does it mean if we're now moving forward with our transformation. Because we have a lot of activities on a local level. They do not only have to deal with Industry 4.0, but also can be lean activities or even activities on the IT landscape, or even buying a new machine. And if you want to do your transformation on a successful way, you have to be aware that all those activities fit to each other.
No, so I think this is pretty clear, pretty straightforward. Nevertheless, a lot of organizations do not have these structures in place, or they just started building it up. That's at least what we see, and as well what the McKinsey report shows us. So, and again, we are not changing the organization in a way that we exchange the people. Yeah, so it's still the same employees working there. So training, education, qualification is very important. How can that look like for especially bigger manufacturers?
Yeah, I just mentioned the different level. I just mentioned different person doing different activities within this scope. And also, if you now take a look on an education program, also this have to deal with that approach that we have a different structure of the people, need different skill levels. And you mentioned it already at your motivation that in many companies the skill level does not fit to your technical improvements. If I just would summarize the most important aspect of an education program, there are three parts of that course. The one is what we are calling awareness, so making the first step of your transformation. This awareness is then responsible for managers. Can be on corporate level, can be also on division or business unit level, that they know what is the direction a transformation is following, and this is also what you mentioned in the beginning, that they can prepare a vision, so where do we want to stay within 5 or even 10 years, and that they can derive a strategy, what are the most important strengths to be at this point, what is part of your vision. And this is normally what we are doing within smart factories, so can be at a customer if they already have a smart factory, or can be also used in some external environment. Here at the RWTH Aachen campus, you have a lot of those demonstration factories where such awareness workshops can be done. And as a second part, we are having the expert training. I mentioned it already. So those persons who later have to apply the maturity index by themselves, it's a program normally taking 2 days that they learn the methodology around this, that they had first practice with some case studies, that they doing the first steps and then be able to work within a mixed team and learning the method much more. And then I also mentioned those local experts who are probably responsible for a program or even a project regarding of Industry 4.0. Also there needs some kind of training. This training is for sure depending what exactly you are doing, but it should be done by the local manager, normally taking about 2 or 3 days. That's say learning methodologies, could be project management. So all those tools what are important to make your transformation in the end in a successful way.
Thank you very much, Sebastian, for the valuable insights on how to empower the organization and associates. Now we're a couple of minutes into the webcast. I think there are some questions. Lian, I'd like to hand over to you. What are our users or watchers saying?
Yes, thank you, Christian. Indeed, we have one question, and the person or the participant is very eager to know whether there is a customer example or best practice about all this framework you just presented, and who's actually using this approach in the industry.
Okay, yeah, very interesting. I would say, Sebastian, this is a question going to you.
Yes, so a lot of our customers use the structure already. So you just mentioned that the maturity index is available since 3 years. I would name here one customer, ZF. ZF is one of the biggest automotive companies. They have over 220 plants worldwide. And we did in the beginning the first project as a consultancy service, but step after step, they educate person here in Aachen that they know how the maturity index works. We did some project with them together, and since 1 or 1.5 years, they are flying around the world, visiting their plants, doing the assessments, and also management or management groups are coming here that we're doing some education and making some awareness what Industry 4.0 can bring to them.
Yeah. Maybe one point to add, so because of the corona, this is taking place virtually by now, yeah, but it's working amazingly well, yeah. So
yes, I think everybody knows nowadays how to use those online tools, and yeah, it works better than everybody expected before.
Yeah, yeah. So we've made really some great experience there. We have customers who put a mobile phone on a small car and then drive it through the factory. So that's very interesting, and how people align to this new situation.
Yes, let's now also moving forward. In the beginning, I introduced it to our structure that we have these 4 fields. I think on empowering the organization and also the associate. I gave some insights. For sure, if you have any further question, please use our chat or even inform us afterwards that we can answer in your question. But now let's move forward to the technology ecosystem. I would ask now you, Christian, if we are talking about how to build up an IT landscape. I know it from my customer, some of that divisions are just bought or merged from other companies. For sure you have a very difficult IT infrastructure. What would be the first solution there? So do you have to build up a complete new IT landscape in the beginning?
I think one point is important to understand. So whenever we are talking about large-scale transformations or global transformation, then that usually implies that we want to make an end-to-end integration of information coming from different fields of a company or from an organization. And that is often enough complicated, and the reason is that usually at different parts of the organization you use different IT tools, you have brownfield environments, maybe you have had mergers or acquisitions in the past, and all that leads to the fact that systems are often enough different and systems do not exchange information easily. And we need to find an architecture, a new solution on how we get them talking to each other. And there are a couple of reference architectures and concepts out there. I'd like to give you one example, the Internet of Production, which has been developed in Aachen. It's a concept for an architecture, but from my point of view, it explains in quite an easy manner on what the problem is and how you at least should think about it. So now let me switch to my screen that you can see it. So this is the Internet of Production. It is maybe we'll find another view where these things are covered. This is the much better view now. So usually we have a layered system, and the first thing I'd like to start with are the expert systems. So these are the systems you have in place for ages, basically since you're using IT tools. Could be the ERP system, so SAP, could be product lifecycle management software, could be basically any software that is used on a day-to-day basis by your employees. And of course, these systems create data, and usually these data is silent. This is the point I've just made before. So what it takes now to integrate this data is a middleware. And what this middleware does is it interfaces the system and it aggregates the data. Yeah? It does not really copy them, but first of all, it offers access to those data and makes this data available to the second green layer, smart data and analytics. So this is the layer where you combine data coming from different systems and you apply advanced analytics, predictive approaches, and so on and so forth. And this layer is then the back end or the provider for decision systems in the top layer, which nowadays, of course, could be an app on your iPhone or on your iPad. So this is the idea behind the architecture. Now what we have here is the expert systems, and because of investment reasons, it does not really make sense to follow a rip and replace approach. Yeah? So you usually want to stick with the expert systems, but you need to interface. And when you dive into this topic, the first step you do is you investigate on what is already there. How is your landscape looking? This is an example of one of the landscapes we are drawing that you see here. And what you see is that there are some fields that you leave untouched. These are the blue ones. There are some that you will change or where you will build interfaces. These are the ones in light blue. And probably there are even some systems that you want to replace or that you want to get rid of here. And having this view in a first step is very important. As a second step, then, you start with building the middleware or the smart layer. And this is something which is done nowadays with industrial IoT platforms. Yeah? So a couple of solutions are out there. ThingWorks from VTC, Azure from Microsoft. There's some more that usually aggregate this data and then help you with some already pre-configured, predefined solutions to present results very easily. Yeah? For example, as part of a dashboard or report. And this, of course, is something a lot of companies are currently looking into. Now, coming to the app layer, and that, from my point of view, is the very interesting layer when you think about providing apps or running an app store as an organization. So what does that mean? First of all, now when you have the central infrastructure in place, you're in the position that you can offer the app store. And there might be a lot of apps that are interesting to basically everybody in your organization. Yeah? For example, the booking tool for meeting rooms or vacation, simple as that. Now, and this is something that you should offer from a very central place. The second level, and this goes in line with the levels Sebastian showed you, there might be very specific tasks on the level of the business unit or even on the plant level. Yeah? And what you need here is an approach where you can provide apps centrally, but then you need to add apps that are specific for a certain business unit. For example, a business unit with a certain business model, with a very advanced scheduling functionality. This is something that could be reflected here, yeah? And other business units who are doing production scheduling in a different way, they do not really need this app. Up to the point on the plant level where you probably have very specific production technology, where you have very specific requirements only necessary for these plants. Yeah? So, and I think these are the interesting things you now need to think about. These are the pictures I like. Of course, it's on a high level, yeah. But I hope that at least the concept is clear, and doing this is something that we then should discuss with more time.
You just mentioned the concept, and you just call it an app store. If I now take a look at the Apple App Store, I think in a very short time new apps are developed there. How easy is it then, if I just have established an app store in my company, also to integrate new apps, new functionalities?
Yeah. That's a good question. It depends, of course, on the app that you want to provide. Often these IoT platforms offer an environment where you can just create an app also without programming. Yeah? So you do not need programming skills to do something. And of course, the hard part is getting the data into the platform. Analyzing the data is a second part, which is hard. But then presenting the data to the user, this is something that can be done very easily, and where these platforms are then very, very helpful.
Yeah. I just get a notice that also to this second field, we got questions from our participants. Lian, please, can you ask this question or those questions which are coming?
Yes, the question is whether this app store is already available. Yes.
That's a question I can take. Well, it is available to some extent. Of course, it is. You need software for that. Yeah, probably software coming from different vendors. But what we see recently is that there are more and more initiatives and companies who who have already built such an environment. The most prominent solution, for example, or concept is the open manufacturing platform, which was launched a couple of months ago. The idea behind this is to create a reference architecture, how exactly this could look like, so the full stack. And when you Google open manufacturing platform, you will see that the concepts are pretty close to the Internet of Production that we've developed in Aachen. And BMW joined the initiative, Microsoft joined the initiative, ZF Friedrichshafen joined the initiative. And so there's a lot of traction coming up, and I'm pretty sure that we'll hear a lot about OMP in the near future.
Yes, I'm pretty sure about this. Thank you, Christian, for giving there a very straight insights about how the IT landscape will be changed over the next year. Now let's move forward, also presenting the third field where we want to go into today. So it's also implementing governance and also project management. I know it also from my own project, and I just make the example of ZF. So if you have over 220 plants, you have a lot of activities, a lot of projects on the different levels. And therefore, it's very important, if you do not want to lose there any track, that you have a very good project management in behind and also setting some governance in between. So what you need there, and I think it's not a new topic coming on, it's also the same in the last year or last decades. So you need some kind of a very close project management. You need some kind of an overview about the progress. So how far are different initiatives already? How can those initiatives starting on one local level, how can those be rolled out to other plants itself? So what you there need is a structured project schedule. This also have to be updated in a very regular way, that you also on the corporate level be aware if there are some projects or even parts of the project that are too late, and that you can adjust your overall plan every time. So what you need is there some kind of transparency. For sure, those tools, how you can do project management, those are not new. I think most companies have this already in place, and those should be also used if we are talking about the digital transformation.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Sebastian, for the insights. So I think this is again an important learning. Yeah? It takes governance, and you need to have a good project control or coordination in place. Otherwise, with the number of projects coming with digital transformation, you might fail. Obviously not something which is totally new, but something that we really want you to remind about. So please keep in mind that you need to be very good in project management, otherwise you might have a hard time for that. Thank you very much, Sebastian, for being our guest today, or being our expert.
Yes, I really loved it to show there some of my experience. So also thank you for you to inviting, and also for all the participants to joining here at our session today.
Great. Of course, as always, so when you have questions or when there are more questions, then I'm pretty sure Lian will tell us, and then we are going to answer them. So Lian, are there any questions?
Yes, there is one last question. So last but not least, in order to conclude our today's session, the participant is wondering whether the platform supports companies not only with several production sites, but actually with totally different business fields, and whether the platform allows a kind of program management that connects different key areas.
Yes, I think it's a very good question. So if you only take at the maturity index how it was developed 3 years ago, then for sure it was very much concentrating on, let's say, production side itself. For sure, making there an end-to-end view on this. But if you're now talking about new business opportunities or new products that are coming to the market, for sure also these are challenges companies are struggling at the moment. And therefore we are supporting them. We have one tool called the Service Index that go one step ahead, and also supporting what can you do if you have external products, or also how do you have to change your business model if you want to change even your business itself.
Okay, so that's great to hear. So there is something, and so what I've seen from the platform so far is that it has turned into a full reporting tool, helping you with every step of the transformation. So it's quite a broad approach, and I'm pretty sure that of course our viewers can get in touch with you.
Absolutely.
Yes, so thank you once again to both of our speakers, Sebastian Schmitz and Christian Hocken. And I hope also that both of them answered all of your of the participants' questions. And we are all at the end of our webcast already. So if you have further questions, you can write both of our experts by an email or a LinkedIn email. And the recording will be available at the upcoming days. And if you want to have further information about the Maturity Index and its application, please visit our website. And our next webinar will be on September the 3rd with the topic How to Promote Innovation for Digital Transformation in an Established Organization. So the last thing to say is thank you. And we hope to see you in 2 weeks again. So goodbye.